Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about a ghost in the machine for wireless networks, Passive Intermodulation, or PIM for short. You know, it's that sneaky kind of interference that your own system creates, and man, it can be one of the absolute trickiest problems to hunt down in the field.
All right, let's get right into it. Now, this is part 2 of a 10-part series we're doing for wireless technicians, and it's all based on a super detailed guide from the pros at RFI Detectives. They're part of Virtualization Options. We're pulling all our info today straight from their real-world, field-tested expertise.
So this is the question that really has to be on your mind at every single site. See, unlike most interference you're chasing, PIM isn't some outside signal attacking your network. No, it's coming from inside the house. It's self-generated, and that's exactly what makes it so tough to track down.
To really hunt this ghost, you first have to understand the science behind it, and that all starts with this core concept called intermodulation distortion, or IMD. Okay, so what is IMD? Put simply, it's what happens when your signals pass through something that isn't perfectly linear. You know, think of a loose connector, maybe a little bit of corrosion. This mixing literally creates brand new, totally unwanted frequencies, pretty much out of thin air. In a perfect world, right, all our RF components would be perfectly linear. They just pass the signal along without changing it one bit. But of course, we live in the real world, and here they often act more like an imperfect mirror. They don't just reflect your original signals, they create these new, distorted ones that we call intermodulation products.
So if these ghostly signals are just popping up, how in the world can we predict where they're going to show up? Well, thankfully, it's not totally random. There's actually a pretty simple mathematical blueprint that tells us exactly where to look.
And this is it. This is the blueprint for PIM. When two of your carrier frequencies, we'll just call them F1 and F2, mix together in one of those nonlinear spots, this little equation predicts the exact frequencies where those new interference products are going to appear.
Now, that formula can create a whole bunch of different interference products. You got third order, fifth order, seventh order, and on and on. But here's the thing, not all of them are created equal. When you're out in the field, the ones we really care about, our main targets, are the third order products.
And this table here shows you exactly why. The third-order products, which are calculated with these specific formulas, are not only the strongest, they're also the most likely to fall smack dab in the middle of your system's receive bands. And when that happens, it raises what we call the noise floor, basically just drowning out the real signals your antenna's trying to hear. You know, the best way to think about it is that these third-order products are the bullies on the playground. They are way louder than the others, and because their frequencies are so close to your original signals, they're the ones that cause the most trouble for your network's very sensitive receivers. So just how much damage are we talking about here? Well, get this. Even incredibly small PIM levels can be totally catastrophic. A signal of just -100 dBm, I mean that's a tiny fraction of a watt, is more than enough to completely cripple an entire cell sector. We're talking tanked data rates and dropped calls.
And here's the part that is just so frustrating for any technician. A PIM source that's strong enough to cause that much damage can be completely microscopic. Seriously. We're talking about a single metal shaving, left over from manufacturing, hitting deep down inside a connector.
Okay, so if the problem can be that small, where do you, the technician, even begin to look for these PIM culprits? Let's go over the most common hiding spots. Think of this as your PIM hit list. The problem almost always starts with a bad metal-to-metal contact. And that means your number one suspect every single time should be your connectors. Are they loose? Are they over-torqued? Corroded? After you check those, then you start hunting for contamination, moisture, and any physical damage to your gear. All right, next up, let's clear up a really common point of confusion in the field. This is so important because it'll keep you from chasing the wrong clues when you're troubleshooting. Here's the deal. A connection can have fantastic return loss, like a perfect impedance match, but still generate horrible PIM. And yep, the reverse is true too. They measure two completely different things. Return loss is all about power transfer, while PIM testing is about finding that nonlinear behavior. They are complementary tests. They are not replacements for each other. So the key takeaway here is simple. For a truly healthy RF path, you have to validate both. One test checks for efficient power, the other checks for signal purity. Passing one test does not at all guarantee you'll pass the other, and you absolutely need both for top network performance. And that brings us to maybe the most important takeaway of all, and it's a direct quote from the RFI Detectives Guide. Given that PIM can be caused by something you can't even see, cleanliness during installation is not just good practice, it's essential for low PIM operation.
That's not a suggestion. It is absolutely fundamental.
So as you head out to your next site, think about this. Were your connectors spotless? Was your torque perfect? Excellence in PIM management is what separates the pros from everyone else, and it all starts with mastering the fundamentals we've covered in this explainer today.